Welcome to the channel. I'm Randy Broussard, your host. I have a very special guest with me today, Mr. Matt Douthit, a longtime JFK assassination researcher. Since back in 2008, he started at a very young age. We can talk about that. He's the author of the upcoming book, JFK, The Missing Witnesses. He runs one of the largest JFK assassination groups on Facebook, JFK Nothing But the Truth. In addition to the group J.D. Tippett, Searching for the Truth, who we certainly wanted to get in there, where he virtually kind of punches holes into the Warren Commission's account of what happened during that aspect of the case. He additionally contributes regularly to the various assassination online websites. He provides subscribers his knowledge of the JFK assassination case, including hosting the JFK debates, which he takes on some of the more prominent defenders of the Warren Commission. I can say he handles himself really, really well. I'm glad we're on the same side there, Matt. I don't think I'd want to debate you. Uh, he's also the author of Unheard. Among other things, he's done so many posts and writings. The silence of the mainstream media account of the Luna hearings regarding the recent releasing of the documents. And over the years, he's a featured speaker at various JFK assassination conferences, including one well-known JFK Lancer held every November in Dallas. And Matt, thank you so much. I know you're a busy guy. Appreciate you talking to me today.
Hey, thanks for the invitation. Anytime.
Okay, we have a lot to talk about. I want to first ask you, you've been researching the assassination for quite a while, and you started like 12 years old, if I'm not mistaken. That's a very kind of a child prodigy.
Yeah.
How did you get started in all this? What sparked your interest at that age? I mean, that's amazing.
Well, long story short, I was getting into the Lincoln assassination. I was 12 years old, and I asked my parents. I said, "Can we go to Ford's Theater?" And they said, "Well, that's a kind of a tall order, but we can take you down the road to Dealey Plaza." And when I went there for the first time, I went to the Sixth Floor Museum. I didn't get the whole experience. Like I knew it was important, but I didn't really get it. And I think that night my mom showed me this Zapruder film, and it was on a little computer, and I was like, "What's going on? I don't know what's going on." Wait, there was a headshot. I don't. So I didn't get the whole experience at first, but then for the 50th anniversary, that's when I really appreciated it and started to learn more about it, and that's how my interest in it kicked off. So
Right. And what jumped out at you when you first saw the approval film, and what made you say, I need to dig
yeah,
into this?
yeah.
You picked
I
her,
Well, like I said, when I first saw it, it was on a little computer screen. I didn't know what I was looking at. I was like that. But then I saw a famous documentary from 2003 called Beyond Conspiracy, where they had blow-ups and close-ups of it, and I was like, "Oh my gosh!" and all that stuff. And back then, I didn't know anything about the assassination. I was a lone nutter, so to speak. And then actually, it was in 2015, 10 years ago now, when maybe 2014, when I came across Pat Spears' website. He's a friend and JFK researcher of mine, and his website was very encyclopedic. And I was like, I didn't know. I thought I knew everything. I was like, I didn't know anything. And so I started reading this, and I was like, oh my gosh. And the first thing that made me, and I realized on his website that, oh, the single bullet theory doesn't work after all. And then just once that thread was pulled, and just I started to grow up more, and I saw how the world actually works, and yeah, and stuff like that. I started to write a book, a manuscript. In 2016, I started reaching out to eyewitnesses and stuff like that, and it's a good book. I have the manuscript actually in my little drawer over here. It'll come out one day. It'll come out one day.
okay. Well, we're looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Not giving away the whole story, but I know you talked to a lot of witnesses. What can we expect from the book? Just
Um,
briefly, if you don't mind.
Yeah, sure. Well, basically, I was there's a passage in Gerald Posner's book. I'm sure you've heard that book, right?
Yes,
Gerald
parts of
Posner's
it.
book, and his explanation for why David Lifton's theory of JFK's body being switched caskets and wrappings and all that stuff from the bronze casket to a shipping casket, from a sheets to a body bag, was he said that there was another body that night. And I was like, I've never really heard in the morgue that night. And I was like, I've never really heard about that. So I looked in Pausner's book, and there was no source for that. And so I looked. So I tried to find out where that came from, and that actually came from one of Harry Livingstone's books, High Treason 2, which came out in 1992,
Right.
page 132. And I was like, well, if there was another body in the morgue, maybe that could have confused people. So I think I was 19 and a half, and I started reaching out to all the witnesses in the morgue, in the Bethesda morgue, who were still alive at that time. And I got to, and I interviewed them. Most of them are dead right now. There's probably about two that are still alive right now, but I got to interview them. So I was at an important time where, like, this was the last point to, like, reach out to key witnesses, and I'm glad that I was able to do that. And so that's basically what the last half of the manuscript is about. The first half of the manuscript is I found a doctor from Trauma Room One, where and a doctor from the autopsy, both of whom had never given their stories before. So that's what started it. And then this supposedly another body in the morgue, in the autopsy morgue. That is what the last half of the book is about. So it's about those three things. And then about 6 years ago, I got into the murder of J.D. Tippit, and that's kind of where I've been ever since.
That's what I wanted to. That was my next question, as a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Segue right and smoothly into this. But it's very interesting about what you said about talking. Before we get into that, who were the couple of who were the witnesses? Maybe one or two in the morgue
Oh
that you
gosh.
spoke to, if you that
Well, I could not talk with Peems, Boswell, or Fink, because Peems and Boswell, the two pathologists, were dead.
yeah,
Turned out that Dr. Fink actually lived in my hometown.
really,
In my hometown, his daughter had lived in Dallas, and of all places, which is insane because he's from Switzerland. So I tried to get in contact with him, but I was unsuccessful to. But I was able to get in contact, and I interviewed, from the autopsy, Jim Jenkins, Doctor Gregory Cross, who was one of the featurettes in my book. Harold Rydberg, he was not in the morgue that night, but he drew the famous drawings for the Warren Commission, the trajectory drawings. Uh, let's see, also from the autopsy, that would be Chester Boyers, uh, deceased. Dr. Cross is also deceased. Jim Jenkins is alive. Um, Jim Metzler, I also spoke to from the autopsy, deceased. Richard Lipsey, he is still alive. I spoke to him. A guy named Sorrel L. Schwartz, James Felder. He was from the Honor Guard that
hmm
carried President's casket. Dr. Robert Carnot, who was originally supposed to do the autopsy, deceased. Forensic pathologist, deceased. Ed Reed, who took the autopsy X-rays, deceased. Dennis David, who helped to bring in the shipping casket that we talked about
right.
earlier, deceased. Hubert Clark, who was another member of the Honor Guard, deceased. I also found another doctor by the name of Larry Dixon, who was also he's also featured in my manuscript. Deceased. Um, Bud Bonham from the Honor Guard. Controversial witness by the name of Hugh Huggins. Um, um, Another new witness by the name of James Rousey. He's been interviewed by JFK Lancer subsequently. Another doctor by the name of Jay Cox. He's still alive as far as I know. He's up in Oregon. And another witness named Bart Hogan. So that's kind of a laundry list,
Yeah. Um,
but my goal was to reach out to them, not only get their stories, but also say, how many other bodies were in the morgue that night, because that's kind of important.
exactly. Right, that's amazing. Okay, talking about the Tippit murder. really want to get into that. You studied that extensively, kind of a leading authority on that case at this point. I know
Excellent.
it's a really just it's very relevant. I think maybe aspect of the assassination that hasn't been covered as well as maybe it should. And if you want to, I have a quote here. I'm sure you've heard this before. If we want to believe David Bellin, assistant counsel to the Warren Commission, who said it was the Rosetta Stone to the solution of the JFK assassination. And they really had to get, no doubt, the overall evidence. It shows that Oswald was the assassin if they could prove that he shot Tippit, something like that. Uh,
Yeah.
and I'm sure you heard that before. But you hit the
Oh
ground
yeah.
running, and you pretty much retraced Oswald's steps from the time that he left the Texas School Book Depository until he went to Oak Cliff, his rooming house. You were, and timed it, and it doesn't quite match the Warren Commission. You kind of debunked that. Can you talk a little bit?
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, um, according to the Warner report, Oswald left work, got on a bus, got into a cab, and then went to his neighborhood, backtracked to his rooming house, got a gun, supposedly, and just starts walking, aimlessly around Oak Cliff, just this bizarre route. And then Officer Tippett sees him, sees the back of his head, and he says, that's the guy right there. And, the Oswald doesn't match the description that's put out on the radio. And supposedly Tippett stops him. And supposedly Oswald shoots him dead right beside his patrol car. Runs, hides in the Texas theater, and police arrest him, and da. That's the official story. But there's a lot of problems with Tippit murder. Did you want me to get into the
Sure.
route that Oswald did? You said
Yes.
the
Sure.
route. Yeah, yeah. So that's the official story. Officially, they said he left the depository. He left work at 12:33. Okay, walked 7 minutes, boarded a bus at 12:40, got off 4 minutes later at 12:44, walked 4 minutes to a cab, 12:48, was driven 6 minutes to his neighborhood, 12:54, and walked 6 minutes to his house, 1 o'clock. I'm giving structure here. They said he left his house at 1:03, walked east 12 minutes, 1 mile, encountered Tippett at 1:15, killed him at 1:16, but they left out that Oswald's housekeeper said she saw him at the bus stop. So at a bus stop several minutes after he left. And they also left out that 1:16 is actually when the police were notified, and that the shooting really happened a few minutes before that. All right. You following me here? But not only that, all the witnesses said the man was actually walking west 16 minutes, not east 12 minutes. So if we adjust everything, Oswald is seen at the bus stop at 1:05, and Tippett is killed at 1:14, and you can't walk a mile in like 9 minutes.
No.
So originally I was like, yeah, no way, this can't. Yeah, no way, this can't happen. So, but it actually gets a little stranger, because I was like, well, the first half of that is all assuming the Warren Commission's timetable. You know what I mean? That's
Mhm.
assuming that all their timings are correct. I don't think anyone had ever really tested that out until really. I mean, I'm sure other people had did it, but from the walk to the from his work to where he boarded the bus, they said that took um, you know, 6.5 minutes. So I walked it, and it was 8 minutes. I was like,
Hmm. And that's
hmm.
repository too. That's on.
To where he got on the bus, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, and then, so then it was, bus caught in traffic, and he walked to get into a cab. In fact, nowhere in the Warner report itself, I found in the text itself, does it say how long it took they have Oswald walking from the bus to get into the cab. So I had to dig, and it turns out they said it was the FBI said it was 3 minutes. I timed it. It's it was actually 3 minutes and 22 seconds. So we'll give them that. That's fine. That's fine. And then they said that the from the cab to where he got out of the cab in his neighborhood in Oak Cliff, they said that took 5 minutes and 30 seconds. Well, I drove it, and it was actually 7 minutes and 37 seconds. Um, so the timetable is already tight as it is, and so But again, everyone for many years was conceding the earlier times. But I tested out those times, and the last one from where he was dropped off in his neighborhood to where he walked up to where he walked back to his rooming house. They said it was 5 minutes and 45 seconds. I timed it, and it was 8 minutes and 9 seconds. Now, some people have messaged me saying, "Well, I did it in 6 minutes, so it's okay. We can give them those 6 minutes. All you have to do is minus 2 minutes. Easy, easy." So, and the Warner Commission, they added a minute and 53 seconds for a margin of error, because it's not like he walked and he just immediately got on the bus. He immediately got in a cab. He paused and everything. So, to the Warren Commission's benefit, to their slight credit, they bumped everything up. So they gave Oswald, they added a minute and 53 seconds for the margin of error.
Right.
So Oswald, it turns out if we do all the math, and I have all my raw data over my other room, papers and everything, if we add everything up, Oswald arrives not at 1 o'clock on the dot, but arrives at his rooming house at 1:06:05. But again, let's minus that. Let's minus the 2 minutes, because 2 minutes. So it would be 1:04. So Oswald arrives at his rooming house at 1:04, and plus they said he was in his rooming house for in his room getting his gun and changing his clothes for 3 minutes. Let's give him that. 4, 5, 6, 7. And
Hmm.
then he leaves his house. And then several minutes later, he's seen outside at a bus stop. That was several minutes later. So if a few minutes is considered 2 minutes, and several minutes is about 5 minutes, then that would
Right.
be 5 minutes. So that would be we arrive at 1:04 plus 3 minutes, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So at 1:12, Oswald is seen at the bus stop, 2 minutes before Tippit is killed a mile away. So, right, unless he was driven there, which is very implausible, you know, it doesn't work. It really doesn't work. And the route that the Warren report said he did, said he was on, that 12-minute route. Remember, I said it really would have been 16-minute routes, 16-minute route. Well, that's just great. What time did we say we were? 1:12? 1:12 plus, 16 minutes, 16, 7, 26, 7, right? It's nearly 1:30 by the time Oswald gets to the Tippit murder scene, and Tippett's already
He's already dead. He's already,
he's
well,
he's already at the hospital.
at the
So
hospital.
so I'm thinking either Oswald was driven there or he didn't do it. So
Yeah. Well,
so I hope that answers your question. That's a long answer, but
yeah.
structure's everything. The
Yeah.
times and
It, it,
distance.
it didn't, David Bellin said he walked it. Am I right? And what was maybe his watch was
16
off.
minutes. 16 minutes.
16 minutes.
But again, that's going the way that the witnesses in the neighborhood saw the man walking, which would have been coming back toward his rooming house. The Warner report said, "Oh, well, he just took the most direct route there, 12 minutes." Well, no one saw him taking that route.
That road. Okay.
No one saw him taking this route. They saw him taking this route. Backtracking that to the rooming house would have been 16 minutes. So David Bellin was right in volume 6 whenever he said it took him 16 minutes.
Okay. Well, I guess we can agree with him on that one.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of witnesses, I have read a lot of different accounts of researchers about who saw what, how many. was it, they said that Benavidez, I think I'm pronouncing his name right, Helen
Genevieve, yeah.
Markham were the only two, but then I think there may have been seven or how many witnesses that actually see this?
Well,
Do we know?
actually, for many years, everyone has said, "Oh, there were only two witnesses who saw the actual murder," but I counted like seven of them. That would have been Helen Markham, Domingo Benavides, Bill Smith, Jim Burt, Aquila Clemens, Bill Scoggins, and a woman named Ann McRaven. So that's seven right there. So that's seven right there. I mean, if it doesn't matter if someone's turned away and they hear shots, and then half a second later they look and they see the shooting, that's seeing the shooting. I think what people messed up on that when they only said two witnesses, I think people were saying saw it from start to finish. But like I said, if you hear shots and you turn around and you see three-quarters of the murder, you're witnessing the murder. So total, it's seven witnesses.
Okay, well that makes
Seven witnesses. Yeah,
okay. And
seven.
were some of these witnesses kind of ignored or um,
Yeah, yeah,
maybe
yeah.
McCullough Clemens for sure? Frank, I know you wrote something I think on your website about Frank Wright. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, Frank Wright. Aquila Clemens, and Jack Tatum. They were three witnesses that were
Jack Tatum.
overlooked, and they saw three different things. Frank Wright said he saw the killer hop in a gray car, speed away. No one else saw that. Jack Tatum said that after the man killed Tippit, he started to walk away from the crime scene, walked back, stood right over Tippit, and shot him again. As no one else saw that. Mrs. Clemens again said that there was another man across the street that they ran off in separate directions. No one else saw that, so we don't know what to do with those three witnesses. Especially Frank Wright. Frank Wright, maybe the man that Frank Wright saw was Jack Tatum speeding away in his car. So
Hmm.
there's so many possibilities. We don't know. We don't know.
Right. Um, that's true. And is it true that some of them, well, Helen Markham for one, wouldn't didn't she was not overly reliable, or can you speak to that? Or
Yeah, a lot of people say, "Oh, well, Helen Markham was completely reliable until those darn conspiracy theorists got a hold of her and turned her all around." Well,
oh,
that's not
really?
true. That's not true at all. Because I found like I made a list of a ton of things that she's not credible on, even before critics got a hold of her at all. And by when they say critics, they're talking about Mark Lane when he phoned her up on the phone, but which is on YouTube, by the way. But
Right.
yeah,
I think I did see that.
and that's not me saying that Helen Markham is reliable. That's not critics saying. That's not conspiracy theorists saying that. That is the own Warren Commission members behind the scenes. They said she was utterly unreliable, very unsure of herself. One of them called her an utter screwball. They said she was
Right.
worthless, contradictory. So that's what they said behind the scenes. This is the star witness, by the way.
Right.
Behind the scenes, they said this lady's not credible, but in print in the Warren report itself, they said, oh, she's credible. So, but she's not. And that's not me saying it. That's the Warren Commission members saying that.
Right. Didn't some of the witnesses actually was Oswald brought up to a lineup and they were not able to identify him? Is
And
that true?
that's the thing. Four witnesses picked Oswald out of a lineup, but those lineups have been scrutinized and criticized for being very um, rigged, unreliable. Unreliable. A lot of the witnesses viewed the lineups all in the same room. They were all together. They weren't shown individually. So, and just for a bunch of other reasons. There's a researcher by the name of Gil Jesus. Have you heard of him? He wrote a fantastic article.
Sounds
He,
familiar. Yeah.
he wrote a fantastic article. It's called "Were the Oswald Lineups Valid?" That's from 2009. I would highly recommend anyone read that article.
Well,
That
definitely.
just that's the. I mean, it's amazing.
It was stacked up against them. The
It really, yeah, yeah, yeah. But in a nutshell, in addition to all the problems with the lineups, um, yeah, four people picked Oswald, picked him, but again, they were from rigged lineups. One of the guy, they were one of the some of the lineups. Lee Oswald was thrown in there with men in dress attire. Another lineup, he was thrown in with three teenagers and a Mexican,
Mexican. Yeah, I saw that.
and and they didn't look like him. Some of them were older,
Right.
heavier, and the lineups have been talked about a lot.
Yeah, and
So
didn't a couple of other members they gave fake names, and Oswald gave his real name, if I'm not mistaken. I think I lost you, Matt. Okay, well, we're waiting on. Okay, here you go.
my phone died. Sorry about that.
Disappeared there, oh my dear.
Sorry about that.
I was beginning to panic. I thought it was something I did that was wrong. Okay, well,
I didn't check my phone. I'm on my laptop now. Sorry about that. So
oh,
go on.
that's okay. I'm glad you're back. Um, okay, well, that certainly it's the Tippit murder has been always fascinating to me. And what do you know about the bullets that they found that really didn't match? Um, the bullets that they found really didn't match his revolver. Can you talk about?
The the problem with the bullets is that they were too mangled to be matched to any gun. So
Oh, okay, okay, that's true. Yeah.
they were too mangled, and the bullets and the shells did not match up. They were two different brands. You can
You can
fire
mix
different
those
brand.
two.
You say it again?
You can make, yeah, it was with Winchester and
Winchester, yeah, Winchester Western and Remington Peters. You can fire multiple brands
okay,
in a weapon as long as it's the same caliber. But the problem is that the bullets and the shells don't match up. So there should be Remington Peters bullet, Remington Peters shell, Remington Peters, Winchester Western, Winchester, but they don't match up. Three were Winchester and one was Remington, and
right.
then the other was two inch. So yeah, it just doesn't that doesn't match up. So that's a big problem. Some people have said, well, maybe they were reloads. You know what I mean? Maybe they were reloads, but that doesn't. Not even the Warren report bought that. Some people said, well, maybe there were five shots fired, and one of the bullets missed, and hit, but the that can't work because it would have gone into the house across the street because we're in a residential
Mhm.
neighborhood. The person in the house ran out. He never said anything about you ain't gonna believe what happened. This bullet crashed into my house, and no one heard five shots except for maybe one person, and we have 20 something ear witnesses. So it doesn't match up. To me, it seems like the reason why they don't match up, the bullets and the shells don't match up, is because um, they were the result of clumsily um, switching out evidence. I think literally the only thing necessary to cover up the Tippit case was to switch out the shells because the bullets are too mangled. The shells that are in evidence today do match the Oswald revolver. The question is,
The
when
bullet.
when were those shells fired in that gun? We don't know because there's no chain of custody for any of this because this is 1963. There's totally different. Literally the only thing that they had to do was to switch out those shells. That's all they had to do to
Hmm.
pin this on Oswald.
They did it. Yeah.
So I think when they were switching out the shells, they were clumsy and mixed them up. Anyway,
And the length they went to try to nail this on Oswald, it's
well,
amazing. Yeah.
yeah.
Now, also, was it originally? I think it was Gerald Hill, the policeman mentioned, indicated that it was a. He thought that Tippit was shot by automatic
Yeah.
revolver. Can you
So
talk
that
about that?
Yeah, so that's one of the other problems is that Jerry Hill, Sergeant Hill, gets on the radio and he said the shells at the scene indicate that the suspect is armed with an automatic handgun rather than a revolver. Now that's pretty significant because Oswald was carrying a revolver, not an automatic handgun. But the problem is that the witnesses at the scene who saw the killer walk away, they saw the man tap out the shells, which means it was a revolver because automatics automatically eject.
Right.
And and since they automatically eject, the shell should have been found right there by Tippett's body on the sidewalk, but they weren't.
You were farther away. Huh?
They were farther away in
Right.
the in a bush by the corner house, and that's exactly where the witnesses saw the killer tapping out the shells and then throw them in a bush.
Hmm.
So therefore, they could not. It could not have been an automatic uh, weapon that was used to kill Tippett. However, it does seem very implausible that Sergeant Hill could be wrong when he's looking at the shell and stamped right on on one of the shells that he's looking at, he's holding, says 38 auto.
Right.
So I'm like, there has to be at least one automatic uh, shell there somehow. So I'm thinking, was it there before? Was it there before? Because this is Texas. You do see bullets laying around. Um, could it have been there before and it would just cause confusion? I don't know. That's just another question mark.
And how could all these policemen make so many mistakes? Like, to the like the Mauser that was found supposedly,
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden, it that goes away and it becomes a Mannlicher Carcano.
I think yeah.
So it's strange. Um, Matt, and we have a few minutes left. The Tippit case, there's a lot involved. Now, when Oswald gets to the theater, real quick, what are your thoughts on that? Was it really him, or was he? The Brewer saw him. The guy, the shoe salesman, said that he.
That's the thing. I think that Oswald simply walked to the Texas Theater from his rooming house. It would have been like a 25-minute walk or something like that. And that
Okay,
would place him around and with these new times that I told you about,
yeah,
but that would seem to have him arrive at the Texas Theater around the same time that Johnny Brewer saw him. The problem is that before uh, Butch Burroughs in the Texas Theater sold a guy that looked just like Oswald popcorn around the time that Tippit was murdered.
murdered. Yeah,
And there was another guy who saw the same guy, Oswald lookalike, arrested out the back door.
right.
And he like bewildered him. He was like, wait a minute, if he's looking at the photo, he's looking at the arrest photos out front. He's like, who's the Oswald I saw being arrested back here? So there's another guy in the Texas Theater that also looks like Oswald. It's a question mark. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think there was another. It wouldn't be surprising because that's how intelligence people do. They're doubles and doppelgangers and things
Yeah,
like that. Even they're even in the spy movies. You see it too. So
right.
that's a good question mark. I think the real Oswald just walked there, and I think earlier there was another Oswald double.
Yeah, and even before that, there were second Oswalds popping up all over Dallas as well.
Oh, Dallas. People shooting at gun ranges, people getting
Yeah,
gun fights, people saying, "Hey, you want to help me shoot Kennedy?" and all that stuff. So it seems like they were the original plan was for it to be a conspiracy, for them to say it was a conspiracy and invade Cuba and everything, and all that stuff, and then they realized they were tripping over each other, and maybe they said maybe we should just stick it to one guy.
Right. Well, Matt, this has been time has just flown by. We're out of time already. Thank you so much. I want to talk to you again about this. How can people get in touch with you? I know you have a website. You have your chances are people turn the computer on. You're going to be on there,
Oh,
and they
thank you.
won't be disappointed. I like your stuff, but how
All right.
can people touch you?
Thank you for the invitation. You guys can find me at my YouTube channel is at MT Douthit, and my site is on Facebook. It's called JFK Nothing But the Truth, and the other one is called JD Tippett Searching for the Truth. And you can also find my articles at
Mhm.
kennedysandking.com.
Okay, we'll definitely look at that. And once again, thank you so much.
Hey,
Great meeting you.
thank you. Anytime, literally anytime. All right.
Thank you.